what can you do about this? And
Number
I
the
don't know where
first
to go
thing, this is okay, but the first thing is I think that if you have like a lot of these conditions, I think you should divorce yourself from online like political stuff completely. Because obviously my reputation online is like, oh, like super far left soy boy libcuck, who debates like reasonable conservatives. If you're like on the right, that's how you would always like define me. And nowadays, like half the internet knows me as a fascist. Like that's not even a joke.
So you've been fighting the mental health battles I've been seeing a little bit. Haven't been keeping up too much with those. They've been pretty debate heavy.
Yeah, well, I've been fighting all sorts of battles. Before we get into that, though, real quick, because nobody in my community cares, you beat the last spell.
Oh, yeah.
You like the game? It was fun?
So I did a review video of that recently. I played that game a little bit when it pre-released, and then again when whatever it was called, I think it was the demo version, and then whatever the most recent version is. I think it's a super fun game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it needs a lot of work, medium amount of work maybe. The problem is it's not really hard right now is the problem, and if it's not hard, the whole game is supposed to be designed on challenge and designed to make you force you to make hard decisions, but in reality it's just the same build order every single time, essentially a econ heavy early build order, because the game isn't challenging enough early enough to force you to do anything else. And then you just outscale the content too hard. So like as your guys level up, as you outscale based on your econ, everything becomes a steamroll after that. So the hardest mission is actually the very first mission with the least unlocks.
I agree. Yeah.
Easier.
Yeah.
Cool. What else? So, League, huh? Are you at bottom of the barrel for your games, or just?
I'm like so close to hitting a new rank, and but it is what it is. Fuck League. Fuck this horrible game. Okay, real quick. What was your approximate age or exact age, if you're comfortable again?
Yeah, I'm 37.
Okay, gotcha. I'm 32. I think a lot of what we're talking about is going to revolve around like how much culture has changed.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of curious, I guess, on what you think about a few things.
My chat was pointing out that you playing League right before a mental health conversation actually is a pretty good segue here. So,
yeah, maybe.
I actually quit MOBAs in graduate school because I was just telling my chat this. I'd finish a night and I'd like, these would be these super long days of your early graduate school stuff. Maybe I have an hour at the end of the night where I can do what I want to do. Yeah. And I'd play MOBA and I'd queue in with by myself into a group of 5 and have this nightmare experience where everyone wants to go to the same lane. No one will pick synergetic heroes, this type of crap. And it just wasn't worth it. I'm just like, there's no way.
Yeah.
It's not good for my health to be playing this right now.
Oh yeah.
Kind of cracks me up a bit. So,
so growing up in the 90s, I think that rightfully, I think a lot of people identified that there's kind of a lot of stigma relating to like mental health stuff. So like you're seen as like lesser if you have mental health problems, like having good conversations about it is like very difficult. You run into like a lot of those issues that rightfully made it so that people wanted to try to find ways to have like better conversations about mental health stuff. Without people feeling like they're being judged or they're losers or there's something wrong with them, right?
Sure.
And I think all of that is incredibly positive. I think that was all really good. But when I look at the conversation online, now I'm going to say online a lot because I understand that like the world that I inhabit online, hopefully, maybe, isn't representative of what exists in the real world now. Sometimes I wonder if the pendulum swung a little bit too far on that. And now we're in an area where truly online, it sounds like a meme to say it, but it really does feel like now where people are kind of like glorifying or like using as identities some of these like mental illness, these things like ADHD or OCD, where like people are putting them in their profiles and all of that, not to like find support groups or whatever, or like people seem to like, a lot of my language is going to be really loaded here just because it's reflecting like how I kind of feel about it now. Like wearing these as kind of like badges of honor and stuff like that is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it seems we can go into specifics about it, and perhaps we will as we talk through it. But like impression management is just something that everyone's doing, right? Always, right? To some degree or another. And it feels like this is kind of a level up of that almost, right? Like it's like the next way of presenting positively without having to have done anything. And like it's the flip side, right? So if the one side of this is, all right, destigmatize something, make it approachable and allow people to get help without these problems, without the problems of being judged for it, which is the positive side of that.
Yes.
The flip side of making something like that more not approachable or available, but more something that you can communicate about, something that you can have publicly facing, has that kind of downside of, well, if people are happy to talk about it and it gives them some status in some way, or gives them something that they can hold over someone in some way, or potentially present as better than or protected from in some way, then yeah, of course, it's like going to be that flip side of that, at least from my perspective. Right?
I had a doctor email me. I don't know if you've heard this term before, but he said the way that they describe this in medicine is called secondary gain. Have you ever heard that phrase?
Oh, I've never heard that.
Okay, so basically, oh God, you should Wikipedia gain because I'm going to fuck it up a little bit. I think you've got like primary, secondary, and tertiary gain. I think primary gain, I think, has to do with alleviating symptoms of something. So let's say that I break my leg. My primary gain, I think, is like getting a cast because I'm like alleviating the pain of like that. Secondary gain is going to be like the social benefits or other benefits you might have from such a diagnosis. So maybe I don't have to go to work or go to school, right? That's like my secondary gain. And then I think tertiary gain, I think, might be the way that other people treat you or something like that. But that was kind of the language, I guess, that he kind of shared with me to explain that. I don't know if you'd heard of that before, but
No, I never heard that. But that does sound like it describes kind of what you're poking at here, at least the downside of it, because it's a hard one to say. Like, I don't think anyone is arguing, and certainly we're not arguing here, that it's a bad thing that people are more able to talk about this, or more comfortable talking about things that ail them or they struggle with publicly, right? By and large, that's good, especially if it results in people getting treatment for things they wouldn't have otherwise, or improving their life in ways they wouldn't have otherwise. But there does seem to be some downside with it too, and it's kind of, I don't know, I'm not quite as involved in it with you as you are, and it's just funny kind of watching the evolution of some of your debate stuff, like the way that you refer to yourself, the tags you kind of associate with your identity, and then like the types of people that you're dealing with that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels a bit toxic at times.
Yes,
parts of that, right?
Incredibly so. Yeah, and it feels this. I guess nobody believes in this, but like ultimately, it feels kind of toxic to the people that are suffering from these conditions, because like the dialogue and everything has changed so much around it. So, for instance, I would say that in the early '90s, or I'm sorry, in the late '90s and the early 2000s. If you have depression, the understanding is that like you're sad and like you can get over it. And that's kind of like what all the conversation revolved around. And, rightfully so, people are like, okay, well, I can't just get over my depression, right? Which is fair, and you can't, because it doesn't work that way. However, it feels like what happened is we went like to the other extreme, to where now it's like you're actually not allowed to even talk about doing better with your depression. Like, as an example of like where that goes. So whereas like in 2004, someone might have said, bro, you're depressed? Just fucking hit the gym. You'll be fine, right? Like, people would unironically say shit like that. But now, like in 2021, if you're like, hey, are you depressed? Like, exercise might help your mood a little bit. Now it's like, oh, what? Are you minimizing my condition? Like, that's what it feels like. It feels like people have taken some of these conditions, and instead of treating them as like these are like kind of like mental quirks or illnesses to overcome, now they're like immutable parts of your personality, and even suggesting that you overcome them is like offensive or horrible or whatever.
Yeah, and I think it's even a bit more umbrella than that, right? Because it almost comes down to like a rejection of criticism of that person at all sometimes when you see these things, right? So it's like, not only are you unable to touch that domain in anything remotely related to that, but almost by benefit of that, other things that are said are now like harder to push back against, because it's kind of like protected by that umbrella of, well, this is a safe, this part of me is not something that you're allowed to criticize or disagree with. And like when you have people taking advantage of that deliberately, and you can't prove that, right? So and again, this is probably worse for you in the debate stuff, when someone's deliberately trying to leverage an identity that's a protected identity, and doing that like in a more global sense than just the topic that they should be protected on, kind of deal. Yeah. Then it gets kind of ugly, because it gets this idea of saying, well, you can't push back against anything I say. Whereas on some level, you should be able to break it down, right? You can be both some protected identity and useless, Like they're not mutually exclusive, right? So like even if you're protected from some whatever it happens to be, let's say it's I don't know, trans is probably a good example of this, right? So okay, someone's trans.
Wait, let's not
no
do
problem.
trans. Let's do something different that's actually like a mental illness that we would want to like
Sure,
fix
okay.
or something.
Yeah, we'll do
okay,
the mental illness stuff.
sure.
Okay, yeah. I don't care what we were looking for this, but because I suppose if you're thinking about, all right, so we won't touch. All right, fine, whatever. What do you like for that?
I don't.
But
The
example
reason
remains
why,
the same.
yeah, the reason why I don't want to use trans is because like somebody can be trans and that's not something they have to like get over or fix. My issue is like people that are like depressed and it becomes part of their personality and now they never want to do anything to fix that or whatever, kind of like that kind of thing, yeah. Or they act as such, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious which is more bothersome to you, because I guess for me, I'm less worried about being able to say, hey, you have something and I have suggestions for how you could do better with that, and I'm not able to have that conversation. That's less interesting to me. That one's less worrisome to me than it is, I am this identity, therefore you cannot engage in conversation with me because I am this identity, period. That's the one that bothers me more, and I think is more detrimental to having a real conversation with somebody or having real
Yeah, that's
communication
a
with
problem. I guess I'm kind of looking more at like kind of some of the overall conversation related to some of these topics, and not necessarily just looking at the like some individual that is hard to talk to. But yeah, I mean we can go from either angle. Both of these are bad, so.
Yeah. Okay. So explain what you're running into a bit more then. So that essentially you can't suggest like courses of action for something because even suggesting that something should be worked towards or worked at.
Yeah, or like or sometimes the analysis of like where these things come from or why people have these things or whatever is like really off. So here's like a more concrete example or something. So when it comes to depression, okay, so on a broad level, so I think we both accept this. Sometimes if you don't have anything, if nothing's going on or whatever, like identifying with one of these labels can get you kind of like some social credit. Like, oh, like that guy's depressed or whatever. Like that's, whatever. They've got a thing they can talk about. The problem is that like when people start using and combining some of these tags to kind of like push like political ideologies, I think it like toxifies the fuck out of a lot of conversations. So for instance, I'll see stuff like this pretty often. Like, oh, like I have depression. Like, well, of course I have depression. The reason why I'm depressed is because I have to live like in a capitalist society and stuff like that. And so like you're getting these like, one, this isn't like a statement related to like the mental illness of depression at all. And then two, now like people are kind of wearing these labels and they're doing it in like the trendiest way possible in order to push like political ideologies instead of furthering either our understanding of these diseases or like how to help people with these diseases. This is kind of like in that vein is what I'm talking about.
Do you think most of these people, forget these people, do you think a lot of the people presenting publicly and I'm thinking like Twitter right now, but presenting so publicly as an ideology are actually very ideologically inclined at all, or just more of a kind of status notification, kind of virtue kind of thing?
It's a status club thing for sure. It's just you want to fit into a club. Yeah.
And when you look at it from that dimension, to me, like if we assign that motivation to these people or some subset of these people doing this, it tends to me to just trigger that idea that this is just impression management. This is people presenting in ways that will generate status or benefit for them. And it becomes so much less about any of the issues they're presenting on, especially if they're not particularly interested in those issues. So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I have like I've had like debates or arguments with people where like they're like they're very, very, very interested in how evil or horrible some company is and the evil, horrible things they're doing or whatever. But then like when we have a conversation, we talk about it for a minute, like they haven't even like read a single article on it. They have no idea, and it's like, okay, well, it's like, so for example, I argued with one guy over like how Google was horrendously transphobic. And the reason why was because they were forcing their employees to get name badges, even if they were trans. They wouldn't let them, they wouldn't let them use name badges that identified in whatever way they wanted to. They had to go by their legal names, which is super transphobic. When I asked him like a couple questions about this, like, oh, like, is it Google? Was it like a contractor? Like, what was it? They hadn't even read a single article about it. They didn't know if it wasn't actually Google. It was a subcontractor, and it wasn't just random employees. It was people literally working as security jobs. Do they use their IDs to swipe in for access anywhere?
I don't know.
If you don't know this, then why are you? Wait, hold on. If you don't know this, why are you talking about this at all? You have no idea what you're talking about then. You understand that, right? And so like it was so strange to me because the conversation started off so heated, like they were so upset and very upset, very mad about it, but they literally knew nothing about it at all. And it's like, well, how are you even that upset about it? Like I don't understand what you're mad about, you know? And I find that happens increasingly through a lot of political conversations. It happened a lot with the Cuba stuff recently when there were protests down there as well. When people used to be like, I don't want to make fun of like furries or other kinds, but like when people used to do stuff like that back on like Guy Online or whatever, it was just like online forums. It was like, whatever, if people want to do that shit, who cares? But now when like more important topics are being co-opted, I feel like that's really cancerous. That's like my, broader.
But that feels such human nature to me that it seems not worth looking at that on a like domain to domain basis, right? Because you're just gonna that's just gonna be people, right? If they can present well and it gives them advantage to do that, they're gonna do it. So, and if it's not gonna be like they're not gonna do it in some domains because domains are too important. It's just gonna be they're gonna do it when they can do it and get away with it. So, I don't know if it's helpful to think about it in like, well, this domain is an important domain, therefore we should see less of this shit. We're going to see this shit just because that's how people behave, right? So I guess if we look at it this way, it seems like, I mean, I don't know, we're looking for a solution, we're just looking to discuss it. I guess from my perspective, I don't see how you tackle this without kind of getting that out of, getting protected identities as a indicator of clout out of kind of the way people look at that, right? So, I don't know,
Yeah, how do you, okay, well,
right?
there's the money question. How do you do that?
Yeah, for sure. How do you do that?
Yeah.
But like, because I mean, you referred to it as a pendulum earlier, and I was thinking flip sides in this, but it is kind of a little bit of a pendulum swing. It's probably the better side of the pendulum, honestly, right? The better side being, stigmatized stuff, can't talk about it, can't get help for it, can't treat it, won't act on it, is a pretty shitty side of thing. But like the over usage of it to just push people's kind of self-presentation is pretty bad too. It's pretty ugly too. And I don't know, like, and is it a real problem or is this an internet problem? Like, like you're running into it a hell of a lot, but I can't think of the last time I had this happen in person. Can you?
No, but I don't go. I'm never in person because I'm an internet person, right? I know what you're saying, and that's why I hope it's just like an internet problem. I guess the only thing that has me worried about some of these topics is that when these used to be like very much internet problems, whereas it was like literally like 3 people might talk about this on Twitter or whatever, or like the reason why I would make fun of like Sargon or something is because he's quote tweeting or he's talking about accounts that are getting like 2 likes, or like YouTube videos like 45 views. Like, what are you doing? But nowadays the accounts that push a lot of this stuff are getting like thousands of impressions or tens of thousands of likes sometimes on some of the tweets, to where now it's like, okay, well, holy shit, this is getting a lot more, or getting to be, at least online, it's more of a deal. And then if I look at kind of like parallels to this type of stuff, so if I think of like quote unquote cancel culture, right? It used to be kind of a meme like 4 or 5 years ago. Like you'd basically have to go on Twitter and say like, I hate all N-words in order to get banned. You'd have to do some crazy shit. Whereas nowadays, like the cancel culture stuff has become way more mainstream, and people that are way outside of those spaces are starting to get hit really hard over insanely stupid shit. So I wonder if like the mental health stuff or whatever, that kind of stuff is moving in a similar direction.
Yeah, and that's the more scary part of that, right? Is when you start seeing it actually have repercussions. If it's just people posturing, that's one thing. But if it starts to be people posturing and now people are losing jobs from this or getting canceled, as you say, that becomes a lot more concerning for that. So, but all the incentives are the wrong way again, right? Like okay, so take like companies, right? Like why are companies buying into any of this shit? I have a very hard time believing that the bulk of the companies buying into to behave in these ways, who are endorsing these cancels, et cetera, are actually doing that for the good of the people involved, right?
Yeah, the companies only do it because they're following the profit incentive, right? If they think that they're going to get big blowback for not doing a particular thing, or for doing a particular thing, they'll follow the people. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how it looks to me from that perspective as well. So they're going to change with how the people behave, essentially, for that. So if the people keep endorsing this as this is the way it's going to go, they're going to follow that way.
Yes, exactly.
So how do you get the people to change on that, or rather, how do you highlight the detriments of doing it this way as opposed to the detriments of not doing it this way, right? Like, how do you get that to be a message that resonates with people being like, oh, I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to be a part of this. I don't really want to endorse this. And I don't know to that, it's, my wife teaches, she's an educator, right? And I'm glad I'm not in her shoes for a lot of the things she's doing, because she's now getting to deal with kind of this generation, the youth of this generation. And like she taught like a course on, think it was I don't even know. I don't remember the title of the course, but it was something along the lines of what's the word I'm looking for this? Something along the lines of basically culture, right? It was some variation of teaching about culture right now, and it's like I wouldn't want to touch that with a 20-foot stick.
Yeah.
Because it seems like for me, all the risk reward is out of whack for this.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can't benefit from talking about any of this.
But you
Every
could
time I
lose
open my-
everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Every time I open my mouth, I run the risk of getting canceled for something like this. And nuance is fucking dead.
Yeah.
When it comes to online talk, right? Like, and again, it's this weird thing where it's like it's a pendulum again, where there's some really shitty stuff happening. You know, like the Me Too movement was basically, look at all this shit that's happening that has been going on behind the scenes that hasn't been talked about, and now we can get out in the open and purge some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good starting point for this stuff, right? That's something that's meaningful, something we want to have happen, something that has big impact kind of deal. But then you see that kind of that full on like witch hunt mode, and it gets a lot worse. And I don't know what you do with that. Do you?
If I knew, I would be doing it. Instead, I just go online and shit post until I get fired or canceled. So that's
Yeah. But, I mean, it's one way of dealing with it.
Be like,
treat it like a troll.
well, no, not like a troll. Like well, I do it, but I wouldn't suggest most people do it because you'll lose everything. So like the real life, I can think of two good real life parallels for this. Do you know anything about like Indigenous people's issues in Canada?
I think I watched a little bit of that conversation you had with the caller.
Oh God, okay.
On your side. So if that's what you're referencing, I saw part of that.
Okay, not necessarily that, but I have a friend who is she's a teacher in Canada. She's Indigenous and she's got like a PhD and everything. She's a super cool person. However, she's told me that like when it comes to discussing like, you know, like is this genocidal or what's going on or whatever, that she's like, these are conversations that aren't worth having because like embedded top down on a lot of these like kind of structures, like you could just get absolutely like blasted, at least in Canada, for like trying to entertain like, you know, well, maybe this isn't genocide or maybe, right? Like if you're not willing to toe like the most extreme fucking line ever, you could just get completely fucked for it. That's one example. And then like David Pakman, I remember for a while. Do you know, I don't know how politically inclined you are. Do you know what the Squad is?
I think it's like
AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib, these people.
Oh, probably Housen.
Yeah. Can you? Okay. He was for a while. He was scared of, even if there was something newsworthy and maybe something that he could get input on, he wouldn't cover these people because he knew that if he had anything bad to say whatsoever, he would just get completely eviscerated by his audience, and it just wasn't worth it. Even if you had the most minor, lightest piece of criticism for any of these four people, you would just get destroyed. And so he's like, I just don't cover them anymore. It's not worth it.
Yeah, which is really interesting because when you think about like suppression of free speech, you tend to think the other side. You tend to think like the far right side, right? Which is you tend to think like tyrannical government, secret police kind of stuff, like the Orwellian nightmare. But this is like the far left version of it, right? Which is the everything must be PC to be uttered, and anything that isn't PC gets not only unable to communicate about, but cancel the person doing it kind of deal.
Yeah.
And that is a problem, right? That's another version of things that we don't want happening in our society, but it's a more insidious almost approach to it because it again stems from generally, I feel personally with my politics, generally the right idea of it.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's like the big problem is that like it's easy to fight against conservatives when they do this because like, okay, like you're racist or you're like doing really bad shit here. But when it's somebody who's like the area that they're coming from is like, well, we want to fix racism or something, right? Well, now it's like, okay, well, now when you stand against this person's ideas, you're basically racist. Like that's like what you are. You've become like the most opposite of whatever it is. So like if somebody is wearing like an anti-racist or anti-transphobic or whatever demeanor, and then they want to have a conversation about something, if you oppose any of their ideas, well, that must be because you are racist or you're transphobic. And then you're like, you're fucked.
And this is the point I was trying to make earlier, right? Where this is too much of an umbrella with some of these protective identities, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's entirely possible for you to have a mental illness and me to acknowledge and I don't know if the word is respect, but acknowledge your mental illness and still think you're wrong independent of that, right? Like you can still have bad ideas even if you have a mental illness. Even if you're a protected class, you can still have bad ideas, right? And like you have to be free enough in the ability to communicate to attack an idea without that getting conflated with attacking the person or attacking I don't know, the immutables, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
Person.
Yeah, so like every single time I have any argument whatsoever with a trans person, like if they get any hate online afterwards, it's because everybody's transphobic or we're transphobic. I'm transphobic, like every single time.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah, and that's a problem because that stifles the ability to have a real conversation about something that isn't just the identity. That's at the heart of that, right? So, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Like, but you see that being a concern, and you see people talking about that being a concern, right? You see like Sam Harris's and Jordan Peterson's and this type of person conversing about this as a problem, and I agree. I agree that that is a problem. So, but no solution. So
Yeah, well, I was looking to you for the solution on this.
you're looking for me to.
I'm actually, well, I'm not necessarily just looking for you to sleep. I'm also just making sure that this seemed to be a problem that other people recognize, and I'm just not like fucking crazy or whatever.
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of people are seeing it that way, and you know that there's the again it's the pendulum. One more time on that, to hit that one more time, right? Is that in general the progress has been relatively positive, right? In the sense of we're moving in the right direction towards being able to talk about some of these things. But this is like too far on the extreme and too much conflating protecting someone with stifling anyone who criticizes them.
Yeah.
And shutting down any criticism of them. So, yeah. Yeah, and you get some weird stuff with that, for sure. Yeah.
Well,
and
yeah.
I don't know if this moves away from it a little bit, but I have a personal example of kind of the conflating of things, and sometimes it's for like the best intentions, right? Like, not that I think a lot of the shit that we're seeing politically is, but when I was finishing up, when I was deciding to leave graduate school to do streaming full time, so I finished my master's and then left on my way to my PhD is basically what I did with that. And when I left, one of the things I did was I took advantage of the mental health facilities at my university to go and talk to a counselor about, well, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. This is kind of a big life decision. I kind of wouldn't mind some outside input on that. And all of the research I had done in graduate school, or the vast majority of my graduate level research was working with the Kink community. And I wanted to test the idea that, okay, if I asked that we have Kink positive counselors, right? So there was some, and my university supposedly did, so I requested one of them. And the counselor that they assigned to me knew nothing about Kink whatsoever, but was trans. And like,
So they just assume it all went together.
right, the administration and their desire to be, sensitive to whatever, had assigned someone to me that was just a different, like it was another person with some, I guess non-normative, whatever, but wasn't anything to do with the topic that was supposedly going to be useful there, which was really, really funny to me. And they were a fine counselor. It wasn't anything to do with that, but it was such a bizarre, like, administrative thing. So, anyway. All right.
Well,
yeah, right. Sadly, what from there? Well, but okay, but think about it from this way. So what do you want when you're talking about this? You brought this up for a reason, right? Like, you're experiencing the downside of this. So what do you want to tell? You want to tell your community? You want to talk to your community about what they should be doing about it?
I guess I just have like, so on one end, it this feels like a shitty thing to say, but like, I'm trying to think of how extreme I want to make this. Like, what I want to say is that, like, I don't think you should ever be putting like mental illness things in your Twitter profile or whatever. And if you have like 2+ of them and you're doing like constant politics online, like, I don't even know if you have these things or if they're just like signifiers of status or virtue or whatever. Like, I guess I would just like people to one is kind of disaggregate some of these things. So like, just because you have depression or whatever doesn't also mean that you have to be like a socialist or any weird shit like that, or it doesn't have to be relevant in every conversation. So on the mental illness part is one. Number two, I wish we could go back to having good conversations about mental illness, because now it feels like it's moved into this impossibly stupid world where like everybody has 15 different mental problems and they can't do anything to help themselves with anything. And if you even suggest it, you're like a horrible person, and everybody like memes these super doomer memes and everything about how fucked and immutable everything is. And then, yeah, for the mental illness side, I guess I would start there. That's something that super bothers me.
Yeah, and what can you do about this, right? Like on an individual level of this. Okay, you're talking to your chat about this, and I don't disagree with any of the kind of like points you'd like to go to, like places you'd like to go to. But like, what are the incremental steps to get there? Like, how do you or I, as just a random person in this conversation or part of this society, impact that thought? And
No,
like,
but
I
the
don't know where
first
to go
thing, this is fucked, okay? But the first thing is, I think that if you have like a lot of these conditions, I think you should divorce yourself from online like political stuff completely. I don't think you should be involved in it at all. Not because I don't want to see you there, although I don't, but because I think it's actually bad for your own health. Like, I cannot imagine, I could be wrong, but I cannot imagine, like you walk into fucking therapy for your like borderline personality / major depressive, and your therapist is like, well, what were you doing today? And it's like, sorry, I was late. I was fighting with 15 different other, like furry / anime avatar people on Twitter about how I'm gonna kill their families because they're capitalists. Or like, I cannot imagine any of that behavior being positive for literally anybody. So I think like step one is like, if you have big problems like that, I think these people should disconnect from social media completely, or like past like obviously use Facebook to talk to family or whatever. But I think for the most part, like for political cancer, I think you should probably back out. That's what I would say. Number one.
But isn't that advice to the wrong side of this in the sense, right? Because that's advice to essentially the people who are doing this. But it's the vast majority of people aren't doing that. And the vast majority of people are dealing with tiptoeing around. It's not even tiptoeing around. It's just trying to be sensitive to something, but also not really understanding what can and can't be said or what can and can't be approached, right? And it's like, again, if it's that umbrella essentially, that people who are pushing this side of things, this idea that this persona alone gives them the right to do everything, like you can't really tell that person how they're going to change, because telling them what they need to do to change isn't going to go anywhere. It's not going to do anything. It's going to be the bulk of the people who are essentially like, who are having to deal with that I would want to talk to, or at least from my perspective.
So you're saying like, what should the advice be for people that aren't doing that? I mean,
yeah,
to block all of them and ignore them, I guess. I don't know.
But you can't do that, right?
Yeah, I know. So what is
do that.
Well, I mean, you could try to bully them off the internet until they actually leave, or have a condition that makes them leave. I mean, that's a little more on the toxic side, but
I don't think I would have advocated bullying them off the internet. I don't know. Like, to me, like, it seems like sanity checking to me to some degree. Sometimes I'll check in with my wife and be like, look, was I being toxic here, or am I just being reasonable here? Am I just, for me, like, divorcing the argument from the person seems to be helpful. It seems to be helpful everywhere, right? Like, the argument should stand on especially when you're engaging with someone, the argument should stand on its own, independent of that person. And if they keep making it about them and it's not about them, well, that's a problem, and that's a flag for me. And if you're making it about them when it isn't about them, that's also a problem in the opposite direction.
Yeah, but it feels like we need to go like there has to be like a more fundamental step, because you're saying what we should do is like we should recognize that the argument is about like the thing and not the person or whatever, but you have to get everybody else to buy into that as well, right? Because even if you're doing that individually, like everybody, or are you saying this is advice for literally every other person? Because it seems like everybody else is very quick to do that. Oh, sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Because the problem is, like, if everyone says, when you talk to someone with some disability, whatever it may be, if you talk to them and you're just not allowed to talk to them because of that disability, you're not allowed to bring any disagreement or any argumentation towards them because of that. If that is the public view of things and it's enforced as such, and cancel culture cues in off of that, well, you're fucked. You're individually not going to be able to do anything with that, right? And if we're looking at this as, again, this goes back to the thought about like the watching like the corporations do this. Why are the corporations doing this? Because the consumers care. Why, so how do you do anything besides stop the idea that pushing back on someone's ideas is somehow an attack on them personally? Until that's clear, where do you go from that? So at least from my perspective, you need to be looking at, to some degree, are they presenting an idea, in which case you can knock it down, or are they presenting a persona and trying to make that into something, So
yeah, but I think one of the big problems you run into though is that I think a lot of this is like it self reinforces and it group reinforces too. So like if I can like start tagging myself up with certain like hip tags like OCD or ADHD or BPD, Like, what incentive do I have to treat people as individuals and ideas as ideas when I'm also getting power too? Like, I think that's part of the problem is that like a lot of people have there's a big buy-in to this, and you get like a lot for doing it. Like everybody's kind of like encouraged to keep up the, I don't know if I'd say like the delusion or
But
whatever.
how are you gonna stop that? That's not illegal. That's not. There's nothing that's going to prohibit people from doing that. And if it gives people an advantage in some way, be it social capital or whatever else, people are gonna do that.
Yeah.
So if we get the idea that we can't prevent them from doing that, and they're incentivized to do it, all of our plans to interact with that have to be after that fact. It's no good telling them to be like, well, you can't do that. This isn't good. The incentivizing for them isn't based on it being accurate, good, or I don't know, any other word like that. It's based on benefits for them to some degree. So so when we're sitting here and having this conversation, what is the point of this? What is the point of the conversation? Or what is the point of talking this to your viewers or my viewers about this, or just publicly having a conversation about this? And it seems to me the only point of this can be essentially to raise awareness for the people watching of why this is a problem and what to do about it as a problem. From my perspective, if I'm looking at, well, this is an issue, what can we do about it? No?
Yeah, I guess I was just bitching. I don't know if there's a good solution. But
okay. Yeah, I don't know. It seems, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go that route. It seems sometimes
what
just
route?
like,
No, go that route.
it sometimes just seems juvenile, right? It seems like it's just like some fucking internet power play or some, it feels like any other like persona, right? It doesn't, the fact that it's interwoven with the mental health stuff makes it slightly more problematic because lots of people have very valid issues and valid issues that absolutely we would like to see them helped with.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
one-
that's
no
why I
one's
made the
arguing with
comparison
that.
to like, you know, if you wanted to be like an otherkin 20 years ago, a guy online or whatever, like who cares, whatever. And there's like no harm, no foul, whatever. But now when it feels like it's influencing people's like takes on everything, or even, okay, I'm remembering more now why I thought about contacting you. Did you see any of the discourse or conversations I was having around like self-diagnosing and self-medicating, like mental illness and shit?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so I think that this is kind of what instigated me to get even more upset, is that like a lot of people are basically encouraging like there's some like if I was talking like if we were having a chat on our own offline, there's going to be some level of me being like brutally honest in terms of, you know, are there going to be times when, you know, physicians fuck up? Of course. You know, are there bad therapists? Yes. You know, are there times where you're gonna have to take some things in your own hands because otherwise everything's fucked? Absolutely. Like I would be an idiot not to acknowledge this.
And let's add a couple more to that, right?
Sure.
Like you know yourself to some degree. If things are changed for you different than normal,
Yeah.
that can be a flag for things.
For sure.
If you're suffering from something, you're going to be the first to know that you're suffering from that. These things are all reasonable flags.
Yeah, for sure. However, man, the discourse and the phrasings that people use to talk about a lot of these things makes it feel so much more like a trendy thing rather than people that like are actually searching for help or helping others search for help. So like I went over, there was a person called Demon Mama online, and I went over one of her videos, and the way that she was talking about like, don't let a physician gatekeep you from your mental illness. And, you know, like sometimes the self-diagnosis is more important than any professional diagnosis or whatever. Like when these were like a lot of the takes, listening to the way that she speaks about it, it feels like it's more like collecting like labels, or it's more like a trendy thing rather than like, you know, how do I actually, you know, figure out how to help myself with this thing, as like kind of a more
It's
like
a balance.
Yeah, as kind of like a more broad example, right? Like if there was this huge trend of people online that would like diagnose, like let's say there's a trend of people self-diagnosing as like having depression, and all of these people were starting like fucking like, you know, marathon programs and like, you know, here's like diet suggestions and blah, blah, blah. That would be one thing, but that doesn't feel like what happens at all. It feels like way more toxic than that. Like these people, it's just like another label to add to your profile, and they don't actually take any steps to improve themselves, and it just becomes like another like, yeah, just like another online badge that you wear basically.
Yeah, but this not to discount that necessarily, but
Yeah.
this is bad actors, right? Is what you're describing. Because, you know, some of these things are, I think, good advice. Like, you know, my wife had an experience with a gynecologist at some point where the gynecologist was like really judgy about her decisions about having children or not having children, about judgy about the age that she was making these decisions, judging like her sexual her sexual lifestyle kind of deal, like this kind of bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And like in that case, yeah, you don't want to be stuck in the fact that your healthcare provider is going to be making moral judgments about your life. That's not what they're there for, right? The health provider, you're supposed to have be able to have an honest relationship with the health provider to give them the information they need to keep you healthy. And they're supposed to be keeping their personal beliefs out of it.
For sure.
They're supposed to be giving you their professional beliefs. So absolutely. So the problem is, if you take that other person, Demon Mama's, I haven't seen her stuff, so I don't know. I don't know what they're saying. But on some level, those arguments make sense, right? Like, yeah, you should be conscientious of what your health professional is saying to you and how they're saying it to you, right? And I don't necessarily mean this means you go cancel your doctor, but push back if you need to.
Sure.
If your
Or get
doctor's
like a
saying
second
something
opinion or
judgy
something,
about
right?
this shit. Yeah, exactly. If you're uncomfortable with confrontation, but I tend to be fairly comfortable with confrontation, and that tends to be something I'm happy to say. Like, this is my life. These are my decisions. Are there health risks to this? If not, then let's keep it there, kind of deal. You can say these things, and that's reasonable to do. But on the same time, as you're saying, like, if it becomes, again, like a power play, again, like a fucking, like, here's my social capital for doing this. If I'm pointing out some problem that isn't there, but giving you the empowerment bullshit for it, sure, there is the problem with that. But this is balance and good faith acting. And I don't know that there's any solution to that outside of people looking at this going, that's bullshit. That's a bad argument and presented poorly and isn't factually accurate and doesn't reflect reality. Like, outside of doing that, which is a judgment on that and then a reflection on essentially the value of the content they put forth, I don't know what you're going to do about that. You can't legislate good faith acting because people can just get around that, You can't prove anyone's intent from the external.
Yeah, of course, you can only infer it. And then the inferences are never good enough because obviously you can always deny an inference, right?
Yeah, and if we start from that position, which is just kind of where you're stuck starting from, what can you do? Like, how do you, again, like, I'm glad my wife is the educator in our family, and I'm both, because I don't want to deal with that shit, but also because she gets a chance to interact with, college-age students coming through this and teach them some about thinking, about critical thinking. And that to me seems to be where the big thing is able to differentiate bad ideas from good ideas and able to advocate for good ideas and argue against bad ideas. And if you can't, I don't know how you can do anything besides that fundamental bit. I don't know how you go further than that particularly.
I mean, in terms of like, that's basically what you can do, right?
Yeah, and it's a sad state to be in, especially when there's like, it's almost like a wave of hysteria, right? That's how it feels a bit.
Yeah.
It feels like an overreaction to something or a overswinging of the pendulum back the other way towards something. And then the umbrella shit where it's like, as we talked about, right? Like, you can be trans and have a bad idea. That's possible.
Yeah.
And they're not related. They're unrelated, and you're not protected from your bad ideas just because you're protected from other things, and nor should you be. But you should be protected from being discriminated against because you're trans or whatever else, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, like, how do you fix that? I have no fucking idea how you fix that, man. Yeah, and I don't know, like, you seem to be doing some of the right stuff in the sense of, like, you're engaging with people who are super far on one side of this, and you're mostly coming out of this looking fairly reasonable, which I think is positive. It's a good thing to be able to do that. It's a good thing to be able to argue on that. But, so many people, I think, are getting shut out of that, and it's so easy to misstep, right? Say something slightly off, and not even intentionally, just by your bad word choice in the moment, or stumble on a word or something. And, and it's weird.
Another,
because,
or go ahead.
I identify as fairly liberal, but like these days, like I'm almost defining against that. I'm almost defining more middle of the road because I'm like, I'm the left side still seems, the right side still seems fucking nut jobs to me. This is fucking random racist shit and like superiority of this and superiority of that and this extreme nationalism, all the bullshit that doesn't make any sense to me. But then I look at the far left, and it's also it's a whole different set of like extreme bullshit that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and that's been some of my most frustrating stuff because obviously my reputation online is like, like super far left soy boy libcuck, who debates like reasonable conservatives. If you're like on the right, that's how you would always like define me. And nowadays, like I'm like half the internet knows me as a fascist. Like that's not even a joke. And it's just
so
like
weird.
Yeah, it's insane. Like how far stuff has moved on some things, or like people say I'm not even left on social issues anymore, based on what the exact conversation is, which just feels fucking crazy to me. And
and maybe there is some value in just pointing that out for a second, to step back from kind of the fray of the perpetual debates and panels that you're on and be like, Jesus, this is and I hear you say this from time to time, right? This isn't reality. This is internet reality. This is internet entertainment reality in some sense. And it's a little easier sometimes to see it again on the far right for me. Sometimes you look at these content creators and you're like, it's clear they don't believe this shit. This is just grifting.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I can never tell, but yeah.
Well, maybe that's fair. I can't tell for sure either. But sometimes you look at that and you're just like, there's no way they believe that. Even their arguments don't make sense. And perhaps they just don't think it through. Perhaps they just don't care. But a lot of times it feels like they're doing it because it is a viewable position. And some of that's got to be here too, right? Like,
I would hope so, but another problem too is that like a grifter can still have sincere audiences, right? That's another problem too. It might be that they don't believe it, but the people that listen to them do, you know?
But it comes back to my point all along this, right? If you aren't teaching your audience, and not even that you're teaching it, but if you aren't advocating for essentially being a critical thinker, you don't have any defense versus this shit.
Yeah.
You'll buy the first convincing salesman who tells you something, right?
Yeah. Although at the end of the day, everybody thinks they're a critical thinker, right?
Yeah. And you're gonna mess up, you're gonna fuck it up, and you're gonna sometimes reflect on that and be like, why the hell did I believe that? There's many times in my life I could look back on and be like, nah, that was a pretty dumb idea that I had at that point that I was convinced of, or whatever else, right? But it's just, but outside of that, what else do you have for that?
Yeah,
Can't
jack
legislate
shit,
against it,
nothing.
particularly. Yeah, and you're fighting this like wave of like public opinion and like optics, you know, and it's like, ugh. You know, and what can you do about optics? You need the rest of the people looking at this to go, you know, the optics on that really aren't that bad. When I actually think about what was said, how it was done, and what was the idea that was presented, you know, the optics suddenly aren't quite as bad as they might look for that. But you talk about any of these things right now, and optically you're just fucked, from my perspective. So,
One of the other things is kind of sort of related to this. There's two things. One thing, I guess. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but it feels like there are no more bad experiences. You actually, it is impossible that you ever have just a bad experience. Now, like, everything is like traumatizing. Like, it feels like we have co-opted like everything related to trauma and the language of trauma to describe every single thing that's happened. So, for instance, let's say, I don't know if you've worked normal jobs, but you work a normal job, sometimes you get a dick manager. It's an asshole manager. You have a manager, they're a piece of shit. Maybe you have a bad day because they shut at you. Like, no longer is it like, I had a bad day at work. Now it's like, okay, well, like it feels like in 2000 it might have been like, my manager is an asshole, it's kind of a piece of shit, and this and that. Now it's like, I have an emotionally abusive manager that gaslights me and manipulates me into thinking that this isn't blah blah blah, and like everything becomes like wrapped up like 1,000 times more when we talk about it. Have you noticed
personally,
yeah,
like the lack of personal responsibility for stuff. I regularly fuck up. Sometimes I'm lazy. Sometimes I snap at my wife when I should have just taken the extra second and fucking swallowed it down and not and didn't react, kind of deal. Sometimes, you know, like, and I don't. It feels like there's a bit of a lack of self-responsibility for some of these things too. Like that now everything is someone else doing it to you.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, there's some interplay there.
I especially notice this when it comes to so because like I spent a lot of my time fighting against like kind of like the red pill shit and the pickup artist shit, which I think a lot of it is cringe. But nowadays they'll be like, I don't know if you've seen videos like this, but like you might have a video of there's a girl in a library, guy comes up, tries to flirt with her. She's pretty clearly not interested, and he shoots a shot for like maybe like a minute, 20 seconds, and then he like walks away. And like the whole like the response on the internet is just like how this has been like a traumatic experience, and like the girl is like completely fucked up now, and like, or not completely fucked up, but just like the reaction is like so insane.
Like she's been harmed.
Yeah, like she's been like actually like fucking not raped, but like the right next step to it. She's got like her eyes are huge, and she talks about how difficult the experience was, and blah. And it's like, oh my god, like a guy tried to flirt. Maybe he should have left a little earlier, but like damn, he didn't like push. He didn't even touch her. Like holy shit. Like I don't know it. Sometimes it feels like things have gotten so extreme, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, it feels like that self-centered again. It feels like a lack of personal responsibility. It feels like self-centered shit to me. Sometimes when you see this, it's like, yeah, I get it. You know, like you weren't interested, but think about this. Like this think about how dating works, right? Most of the people that you approach aren't interested in the long run, right? That's just how dating works. Like, and you don't get to wait until you're 100% certain that they are interested. Because if you're doing that, you're missing out on many opportunities where it wasn't as clear or you weren't quite as right for that. So there has to be some interplay with that. It's like for sales pitch, it's like any other sales pitch, right? So
yeah.
no, I don't disagree with any of that, which is perhaps awkward for conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. When you're talking to you again, I come back to, well, what's the point? Why have the conversation? Why have this discussion about it? What are you wanting to change or do? And if it's just venting, sure, we can just vent publicly.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that too. But if you're like, well, what am I doing with my audience? What am I going to tell them? How I think about it? How do I
Yeah,
want
I mean,
them
like,
to
I
think
think I have like a good idea of how to have those conversations responsibly, but it's very hard sometimes not to get like frustrated. And I don't want to say lash out, but yeah, we'll say lash out because like for it sucks sometimes because like it was so easy to fight against conservatives because like the types of insults or the way that they would view me, like I was fine with, you know, like if you think that I'm not like, if you're gonna like sit there and accuse me of like hating my country or like being a soy cuck or watching my girlfriend cuck me or whatever, like I don't care about any of these things. It's like I can tell the type of person that says that, and I know like what's going on in their head, and it's like whatever. If you think I hate white people, fuck you or whatever. But when you're getting people on like the left now, where if I have disagreements, it's like, oh well, that's because you're homophobic, you're transphobic, you hate like these. It's like, wait, this isn't even remotely true. Like it's not even there's nothing that maps onto reality here. Those types of conversations get way more frustrating for me. You know, like if I got canceled in the past because somebody thinks that I like, you know, hate white people or some shit, like whatever, dude, fuck you. But like when I've got people, like I try to get more involved in like real life political work, and I've got people that legitimately think I hate BLM and I hate black people and I want like conservatives to like murder protesters. And it's like, wait, this is like not even close to anything that I believe in. That type of stuff gets way more frustrating for me. And then like having to treat those people with like, and really like for optics wins, you have to do it with kids gloves. You have to be so kids gloves with everybody. And it's frustrating to do that when those people are like, I guess, engaged in that type of like holier than thou attacking people.
Yeah, I don't have the patience for it. That element of it.
Yeah.
I tend to devolve pretty rapidly into a critique, a fairly harsh critique of what they're saying.
Yeah, I would say shit posting. Which is unfortunate, and I probably shouldn't, but like it, like oh my god, yeah.
I thought one of the tweets you put out was fairly good, which was the one looking at the ESM, looking at some of the diagnoses for some of these things are essentially self-diagnoses of these things. I thought was a really cutting retort to the point of self-diagnosis.
Sure.
And that type of thing would be where I end up devolving on these conversations, because I don't know why that's not the wrong way of putting it. You seem to have a lot of patience for doing this in a way that is trying to be I don't know, you're moving towards this more polite way of doing it, and I'm not entirely certain why.
Sometimes some of my Twitter stuff is not polite though. Like I think the last tweet that I said that was probably a little bit more inflammatory than it needed to be, but it was like, I think I said like, I'm blocking all trans people on Twitter. I'm not doing this anymore. Like that. And obviously there are a lot of people that were upset at that. And when I heard it in my head, when I was like, I'm blocking like trans people on Twitter, I was thinking of like the terminally online Twitter people, but then people read that as like, you're blocking every single trans person on Twitter. Like that's transphobic. We knew you were transphobic. I was like, all right, whatever, dude. Or dudette, sorry. But like, yeah. I definitely like fly off the handle sometimes, but god damn, these people are, yeah, it's a lot sometimes.
But for me, like the triggering factor is sometimes when you're talking with someone, it's so clear that they're posturing. They're not trying to connect. They're not trying to resolve. They're not trying to get to the core of something or find a point of commonality and work from there to build out an idea.
That's everybody. Yeah.
Well, but that to me, that's a fucking dishonest actor. That's
I know, but that's what people want to see.
But why protect them when that's the part that
well,
that's
because
where I would
because
lose the patience.
I think the problem is you have to play this game. So this is something I didn't recognize this until I'm the luckiest person in the world because I got a literal fucking god YouTube guy, and when he was going through a lot of my debates, he started pointing out this thing to me that the reason why a lot of my debates started to feel bad for me is because I'm trying to sit there and like build an argument and engage like as an interlocutor with the other person, like, and I'm doing all these things, and all the other person is doing is they're finding the best things that look the best to the audience and then saying those ad nauseum. Yes.
Oftentimes contradictory to their own
point.
Yes. Moments later.
Yeah, 100%. And when I started to look at things through that framing, I started to see so many conversations that I was involved in so differently. Because then I started to realize, like, okay, hold on. You don't actually believe that. You're just saying this because it sounds good for your audience. This is because if you actually think about what you're saying, this is fucking ridiculous. So like something that was most recent was like part of this trans discourse. And Dude, I've been like a huge proponent of trans people for a long fucking time, but like where the conversation has moved to online is like you can be whatever you identify as. So unironically now, so people are saying like if you want to be an attack helicopter, like that's fine. If you want to identify, that's fine. It's all the same shit. And it's like, well, wait, no, that's not the case. But then when I listen to some of these conversations where like people are saying shit like, oh yeah, whatever you identify as, that's what you are. And it's like, this is clearly like ridiculous. You must know this is ridiculous. And maybe they think that they do know that, but like when you watch them have the conversations, maybe they're just going for like, well, this sounds good to the audience because it's like the ultimate freedom and whatever. But like, oh my God, like holy shit. Listening to how some people have those conversations is like so frustrating to me.
Yeah, there was something a couple.
See ya.
months, maybe
Sorry.
A couple months ago, maybe a year ago, something like this, talking about there was some tweet that was saying it was arguing that biological sex has no impact, or rather, what like one of these deals, and it's just like.
Yeah.
When you start seeing things that trigger things like that trigger the fuck out of me because they're so obviously inaccurate.
Yes.
And if you start from a point of inaccuracy, I mean, where the fuck are you going to go with that?
Yeah.
Like if you're like, this is a fact and I'm sticking to this, and you're like, but that doesn't adhere to any of the things that would make that a fact, any of the rules of reality that would justify calling that a fact, they don't apply to that because it's wrong.
So this has been my whole foundation for like I call it like converting people on the right or whatever. But like it's basically like I think I can do this because I feel like I'm the only person on the left sometimes that's willing to like acknowledge some shared fucking reality, right? And like you'll see people that will so desperately fight against every possibly descriptively true fact. It'll happen a lot with dating advice too, right? Like somebody will say some shit like it's a lot easier for girls to find a fuck partner than for guys. And you'll get people that will fight you on that. And it's like, why would you fight there? Everybody looking knows that's true. So why would you start at a point of disagreement there when there's just like you've already lost like anybody that you would possibly hope to convince otherwise, or anything related to this the thing about like biological sex. When trans athletes come up, I had a couple conversations with trans people, and this is that's a really hard topic. I think for either side, it's a very difficult topic. But I'll get into arguments with people, and they're like, oh well, if you look at the the bimodal distribution between male and female traits, like there's an average like males and females are about the same when it comes to like strength and endurance and blah blah blah. It's like, wait, what the fuck are you saying? Like everybody knows this isn't true. Not only is this not true, it's actually important for other discourse that we have. For instance, like women suffering more under domestic abuse, or women have a higher proclivity to be raped or assaulted. Like we kind of have to acknowledge that this is true. Otherwise, other arguments may completely fall apart. And it's like unbelievable to me.
Yeah, and that's one of the ones that I like Joe Rogan stuff on that, which is probably a dangerous thing to say these days. But like the argument essentially is, it doesn't even matter what the general group of that looks like, because the athletes are literally selecting for the top performers in that. And if there's a difference biologically between the top performers of one gender, or one sex, I guess in this case, one sex compared to another sex, putting those two sexes together in competition and calling that equal is really fucking bad. Or really, it's not even bad. It's just like
you're losing
everybody. It's no longer a true competition. Right?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I don't know what the good sense is, because you don't want anyone to not be able to play a sport in high school or not be able to participate in like whatever they want to be doing. But if you're looking at it on the competitive side of that, well, how do you justify that? Like when you see like a person is transitioned to be a female at that point, and they're blowing the records out of people who didn't transition, and you're just like, well, fuck, like you want them to be able to compete post-transition for that, but what the fuck do you do to make that into a fair place for those competitors? And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I don't know that there is a good answer for that. If it becomes super widespread, maybe you have different leagues for that or something like this, but I don't know what you do realistically. And you sound like, and again, this is one of these conversations, the optics are bad.
Yeah.
The optics are super
because you sound like
bad.
you just hate trans people.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
how do you ever, but if you cave the other way, it's like it's not acknowledging the realities of biology. And that to me is also fucking, I don't want to cave because it looks bad when it's factually accurate,
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah, that's all of it is really, really, really frustrating.
Yeah. And if you don't have people willing to acknowledge something like that, not even willing to start on the point of, well, there's differences biologically between the sexes. If you're not willing to have someone start from that point, how do you get a point of conversation? And this is the part that I don't understand for you. You're like optically, you're like, if you have someone who's unwilling to do that and unwilling to concede that fundamental of a point, how do you have a conversation with them that isn't just posturing for everyone on both sides?
Yeah.
And if you're just posturing, at that point, I start to be sarcastic, cutting, deliberately trying to point out, like, because
It's so interesting listening to you say this, because when I talk to you, you're very nice. You seem I can't imagine you ever doing that. You sound like a very like, but I haven't heard any of your PK stuff, so maybe you're more aggressive on that show. Like, because all of my, but then I guess there might be fans of yours that have never heard of me before, and I hope I come across as polite in these conversations. But the reputation I have is like internet debate lord, asshole, or whatever. So, but yeah, it's fun. I guess it's funny for me mentally to imagine you like losing your shit. But
Well, yeah. No, I have a reputation for the other opposite of that. But it's not even losing my shit necessarily. It's just like, it's easy to have a polite conversation right here because we're not fundamentally disagreeing, which is probably problematic to make this point. But
Sure.
more importantly for me is that the way we're approaching it, right? Like we're approaching it as a conversation from the idea of trying to get to the actual heart of something or a shared understanding of something, right? It's not just presenting a position and being unwilling to budge regardless of evidence that might make you want to budge. My goal from the conversation is to come out of this more accurate, not to just have my ideological point. So that's why I think it goes smoothly, certainly for this anyways. So
yeah, but it feels so hard in terms of talking to people. Like in terms of what they're actually interested in. It's funny because after my YouTube guy pointed out the optics thing, so I said like 2021 going forward, like in the past, like if you give me a hypothetical, as long as it fits my logic, I will own it. I don't give a fuck. So like if like somebody gave me like an outrageous hypothetical, like let's say you could transfer the mind of a 50-year-old adult into a 2-year-old body and they were that mature, would it be okay to have sex? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like I'll own any crazy hypothetical just to move forward in the conversation. But like I notice now when like somebody like 2021 going forward, I try to be more optically aware when people have conversations with me. And ever since I tried that, it's only taken me one conversation with somebody for them to never want to talk to me again. So I did that one time with Vosh, where instead of like owning absurd hypotheticals or whatever, I try to be more aware of like, well, let's talk about it in this way or frame it in this light and let's have this conversation. And then after that conversation, Vosh would never talk to me again. He said it was a waste of time. And then it happened with the Serfs, it happened with Demon Mama, where when I get more optically aware, now all of a sudden they don't want to engage. And I think one of the most frustrating things to me on that point, and maybe this just sounds like me whining or whatever, is that like, I wonder sometimes like the types of audiences that inhabit these streams, like are the people not at all aware of that, or do they just not care, or am I the one that's biased?
Are they wanting their guy to win?
Yeah.
And I actually, it's funny you say that because not only you've said this on other videos, it's not like I'm not aware of this position of yours, but I actually find your stuff less interesting because of that. Exactly that reason, because the fun part intellectually about owning a position is the implications of that position.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part. It's, like it's not just reciting the same thing and hearing someone else say that. It's thinking through, well, if I believe this, what are the implications and repercussions of that position? Does it fall apart on the extreme? And if it does fall apart on the extreme, how do we remedy that? How do we fix that with the general belief of it?
Yeah.
So like, I like seeing the owning of the extreme positions of that, because for example, the one you've just thrown out, what you're arguing is the reason why we care is it's a consent violation.
Yeah.
If you have the ability to consent, would it be a violation anymore? No. Would it be fucking really, really hard to like watch or be fuck, that would
Sure,
be,
yeah.
it'd be,
But it's just the optics
so many
of it
social
all.
norms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The another example of this is related, like I've gotten into a lot of arguments related to self-defense, and most of those conversation topics are just like, it's usually the other person just repeating ad nauseum, like, you think items are worth more than people's lives? Like hearing some variation of that like 50 times. And then like refusing to engage with any like possible argument I have. There was a conversation I got to have though with two, I don't know if it's because they were lawyers there, it's two people that passed law school or whatever, one lawyer, one guy just passed. And that conversation was like one of the most fun I've probably had in like 2 years, because like the whole conversation was like, it was all extreme hypotheticals. Like on their end, it was like, let's say somebody goes onto your property, you tell them you're going to kill them to do it, but they want to steal one blade of grass from you. Like, is it okay to kill them? And then like on the contrary, I'm like, okay, well, let's say somebody goes to steal something, they say they're not going to hurt you, and they just want to take one candy bar or whatever. Should they be allowed to steal from you infinitely and never have repercussions because they're not threatening your life? Like, and those types of conversations, like you said, I think those are really fun. I think that those
I
are
watched
like
that one on your YouTube.
Oh,
that was good faith, right?
Yeah, that was
a good
and it was a
conversation
super fun. Yeah,
that was Bastia and a couple other.
it was Bastia and Pisco. Yeah,
yeah, and because you had some people who wanted to sit down, be intellectually honest, be willing to own the repercussions of that, think through that, think not in the terms of winning that debate in that moment, but like thinking through their ideas under fire from other people, right? This is for me one of the best things coming out of academia was the idea of the last idea standing, right? Which is if the way that you are presenting something or defending something is everyone takes a pot shot at it, tries to fucking knock it down, tries to blow holes in it, and if it's still standing at the end of a round of rounds of smart people trying to do this to you, there might be something there. There might be something worth holding on to there. There might be something that has some value.
Ironically, that's the whole reason why when I started, I've done this since high school. My mentality, I think when I was like 15 or 16, was basically like, if I argue with enough people, one of two things either happens. Either one, somebody will knock my idea down and I'm going to copy theirs because it's better. Or two, nobody can put up a good argument, in which case it must be pretty correct. And that's kind of like, I carry that through high school and then into college and then into like, I guess my online arguing shit where I basically, if I can argue with like 30 people and nobody can knock this down, it must be a pretty good argument, I guess. But that, like those types of conversations, I will truly say, and people ask me like, what's your best debate content or whatever? I truly have almost no conversations like this. Like I would say, like without exaggerating, like 2 or 3% of my conversations are like that. It is. I can think. Yeah, it's like there's probably less than 5 I've had with people that are ready.
The new stuff is so boring because the old. That's the wrong way of putting it. That's why I like the new stuff less than I like the old stuff because what happened is it seemed to be the old stuff. You would attempt to approach somebody on good faith, and when you ran into the point where they were stopped being willing to engage with the argument, then it was just ridicule and hyperbole to show how ridiculous their position was. That was entertaining for me because for me, like I'm like, well, the other side is really interesting too. When you get a bunch of people who want to have a good conversation and are willing to play with that kind of ballpark, like the one you're describing with Bastiat, et cetera, right? Like that's also fun because that's the fun part of the intellectualism of it versus the other side, which is like, okay, you run into someone who's clearly a bad faith actor, clearly doesn't want to fucking engage with this, clearly has shit arguments and won't do anything to defend them. Well, good, blow them out of the water, poke holes in them. That's interesting to me to watch too. Both sides of that. So
I
like
think it's different
the stuff
though.
Where you're like coddling is so fucking boring for me. Like
I like that. Wait, are you familiar with a lot of my content or something?
Well, that's parts of it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I wasn't sure how much, or I didn't even know how much you knew about my shit. But I agree with that. That was a lot of fun for me, but it was a lot different when it was conservatives because like you're allowed to be mean to them, basically. And it's way, way, way different. Even my own fan base is still like super like really irritated when I'm super mean to some of these people on the left. Like these posts show up on my subreddit all the time. Why is Destiny so hostile towards people on the left? Why is Destiny? And it's like sometimes I am a little bit, but not even close to where I was with like way back in the day with the craze. Because I'm not even close to that level of like because those arguments got personal and nasty, like real, like hardcore. And then like for these people, like if I just like, if my voice is louder, if I'm short or whatever, like people get like upset about how I engage with them. And it's gotten really annoying because since they're kind of on the quote unquote winning side, I guess, of the culture war or whatever right now, to argue against them like necessarily makes you this kind of like immoral actor. And it's so irritating how morally loaded like everything is. Like if I have a conversation about like rent control, it's not actually about rent control. It's about how much I want every single poor black trans woman to be like poor and homeless versus like do you actually care about the policies or not. Like everything gets like so fucking extreme and I hate that. I fucking hate it.
It also seems like divorced from fucking reality. Those are like I don't know, maybe this is my own limitations for how I argue with things or how I think about things. Like there's an ideal world and there's a realistic world, and in the realistic world, what I want to see is progress in the right direction.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to start by fixing everything perfectly from the get-go. You got to move in that direction. And when you look at like the progress of history, we are moving in the right direction by and large. You know, it's like it's not always as quick as we'd like, and it's not always a fucking straight line. But by and large, things are improving. So to like frame these arguments in like this. The idea that society is failing and falling down and like woe is everyone for all this shit, it gets.
And then
it's painful to watch.
Yeah, and then how extremely off reality. I just listened to you know H3H, right?
I don't know. What's H3H?
Ethan, they do like podcast stuff or whatever, but he's a really big podcast online guy. But I just listened to H3H and Hassan in a conversation mention how like oh yeah, like $50K a year, that's not enough to live anywhere in the US on. And it's like just like these like you'll get like these outlandish statements from people that are like so disconnected from reality but like have all these prescriptions for poor people and shit, and it drives me absolutely fucking crazy. Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. And it's and I agree because you run into these optics problems, you run into these issues with like, well, what are you going to do about it? Because I feel like what you're deciding with your content is, well, am I trying to be the better persuader in the sense of, if you're throwing insults at someone, you're never changing anyone's mind with this. If you're attacking the peripheral route, you're rarely are you getting where you want to be going for like change, influencing deep change in thought processes. But I feel like the only way that you get value out of the kind of central route of persuasion of the facts of it, et cetera, are the people who want to listen and engage. When you're engaging with the people who don't want to listen and engage, and again, like I think some grifting in there, I think some optic stuff in there, I think sometimes it's just content related stuff, I think sometimes it's just because they want to have a win kind of deal. When you're engaging with people like that, what do you gain by being the earnest actor there? Because that's what you're doing, right? You're essentially treating them well, trying to come back to the points repeatedly, and doing that to begin with. Yeah, open every debate like that, in my opinion. Great. And find out if they're willing to engage with that at all. And if they're not, like, what do you gain by continuing down that path?
Yeah, so that's what. So since I can't like make fun of them, because I'm unironically like I really do think the majority of Twitter views me as like transphobic now. Like people actually think I hate
Really?
trans people.
I don't think that.
I actually do. I super think that. I'm not even joking. So like people will tweet shit that is getting like 4-figure, sometimes 5-figure engagement. I think about me being like transphobic and shit. So I've just started blocking them all since I can't bully them or make fun of them because like people just have these horribly negative views of me. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I generally think of myself as fairly thick-skinned, but like I don't. You're on such a different level in terms of size and engagement than I am. That like I have no idea what it's like living with that. So if you're sitting there telling me like hundreds of thousands of people, or I guess 5-figure, tens of thousands of people are endorsing this shit, I don't know what to think. I mean, that just seems like the echo chamber of online bullshit right now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's like how can they really? Again, this is like thinking like this bothers me. This is for me and parallel course with Jordan Peterson a little bit, right? Listen to his fucking shit. When you listen to his shit, there isn't hatred in there, kind of deal. Like when you listen to that, he might be wrong about some of this shit, and some of the stuff he says is definitely not what I agree with. But if you're gonna paint him as like a transphobe, and it's like the same when I like listen to your stuff, right? It's like, how can you, with the body of stuff they put out there, that you have published, with the number of things you've said on camera out loud, how is that still able to exist as an idea?
Yeah, right? I think people
besides being dishonest.
Yeah, I think people have a really hard time drawing out like the difference between like problematic and hateful. Like so the thing that I've always said about Peterson is anytime he starts talking politics or like history or philosophy or politics or history, I usually think it's usually really, really bad. But like whenever he's talking about like psychology related stuff, it's usually pretty good. Like I haven't heard him say anything like pretty cringe, and some of it maybe even is a little insightful. I don't have like any big problems there, but like people have this hard time. Like even if I do believe that Peterson's takes are very problematic, he's not a Nazi, not even close to that.
Right.
You know, and he's not like an alt-righter, you know, not even close to that. But for some people, it's like, you know, like people just they have like these labels that they want to paint everything. Like everybody's like a fascist, like Nazi or whatever. I got a lot of heat from my fan base included. Somebody asked a question about like whether or not Ben Shapiro is racist. Now, I've had conversations with a lot of people that are racist. I think Ben Shapiro's a fucking idiot. But like, I don't think he comes off as like I don't know if neocon means anything to you, but he comes off as kind of like a neoconservative to me. Like a Bush era kind of like conservative, like small government, big business, tax cuts or whatever. I don't think I see stuff that's like specifically like racist by him. And man, when I gave that take, people all across the internet were like, oh, this is destiny, making a shift to the right, 100%. That's him becoming conservative. It's like, I don't know. I just don't think Ben Shapiro's a racist. And it's, yeah, that whole thing was like super frustrating too. Yeah.
But that's a highlight to me anyways of some of what's wrong with this discourse, right? Because what you just said is someone has presented an idea that one side doesn't agree with, and rather than shit on that idea, he is suddenly, or that person is suddenly persona non grata, right? Like
yeah.
they're like the devil, they are the enemy now, and everything they say is now related to that. Again, why can't we have the identity separate from the argument, right? Like if you're a neocon, okay, I have some idea what that means, and I will probably almost certainly disagree with large portions of what they believe in, but I can do that independent of them. I can have a friendship, I can have a relationship with them, and I can fight their ideas. Yeah. And that doesn't mean I have to cancel the entire fucking person, maybe, but like probably not, right? So I don't know. It's just it seems so dangerous to me to make it a all or nothing. Like everything about them is one thing, one identity, one thing to engage with.
It's crazy to me. Do you know Mike from PA or Central Committee?
I've heard you talk about him. I think I watched one thing with him, but I don't know a lot about him.
Crazy to me listening to him to talk to another guy. Like people think that, especially somebody like him, who I would consider to be, for regardless of like him or hate him, he should be pretty politically aware. To hear him think that like all of the, do you remember Gamergate?
What was that? Was that the like a bunch of accusations of essentially some bad shit going on?
Like
I
sexism,
think,
just a whole bunch of dumb shit. But it was basically like a
was
bunch
it
of like
a lot of streamers like Swifty and
yeah,
that kind of
there was a lot of dumb shit. It's a really broad thing when you say Gamergate, but it was basically like I would encompass like most like Gamergaters as having like a certain type of like I would call it gamer bro politics. So like you're generally left leaning or liberal, but you don't buy into like quite as much of the progressive stuff, especially related to sexism, because get women out of our fucking video games. I would say like that. But like listening to somebody like that Mike guy or other people conflate like Gamergate people with alt-righters is like, wait, these things have nothing to do with each other. Like to these people, like every single type of conservative is the same type of like extremist right-wing like Nazi. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
It's really frustrating.
Yeah, it is. That kind of stuff is really. But again, that feels like identity politics to me. It just feels like, you know, someone is just their totality of being is essentially their fucking identity. And if any part of that is against the ideology that you believe in, well, they're as a person no good. And that's just, it's so fucking toxic. It's so toxic and it's dangerous, right? Because it leads to like suppression of people entirely, suppression of ideas, suppression of discussion.
And even more importantly, like it inhibits our ability to have like conversations about these issues.
And yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly the problem that results in is if you can't discuss these and deal with these, what are you going to do? And I feel like if anything, the last 5 years, I guess, of Trump presidency, mostly the disinformation part of it, right? The kind of mainstreaming of disinformation being the alternate reality, the altered or alternate facts bullshit kind of stuff, right? There's no alternate facts. That isn't a thing. You know, there can be misreported or inaccurate reporting of facts, but facts are facts. That's definitionally what they are. There's no alternate version of this. You can't communicate with a person who's living in a reality that doesn't interact with your reality.
Yeah.
How do you common ground that? How do you find some point to start and build from? If they don't believe in any of the fundamental things that you believe in. I don't mean ideologically, I mean physically.
Yeah, and this is
reality-wise.
This is why I said that, like, I think I said this recently because I'm trying to get back into like talking to conservatives and shit. Because I think that my strength in the past was like being able to bridge different realities. So like, okay, well, left-leaning people think this, you think that. Well, like, you know, you're not 100% wrong, but like, let's see if we can kind of like make these things like commensurate with one another. How do we like reduce one to the other so we're having like the same types of conversations? Because I definitely agree that I would say that like our single most biggest problem, or at least the biggest symptom of some other problem is this like reality divide that the world is in right now. Because like I don't even think necessarily the actions are the problems anymore. I think it's the worlds that we live in. Because like for instance, like the January 6th stuff is a really good example. I don't think any of those Republicans were wrong. If anything, I think I'd champion their cause if it was the case that our election was being stolen. And it was the case that voting booths and machines were rigged, and it was the case that, like, if that was true, then yeah, you should revolt, like 100%. Like that should be your prerogative. But like, or at least I don't know where you fall politically on that, but like I don't think any of that is the case. And I think that it was resolved enough in court such that there's just no possible way that was the case. But like the problem is we live in like such different information worlds. It's like I can understand why people would believe the things that they do. Why are there 20 fucking people here? I can understand why people would act the way that they do, given that they believe the things that they do, if that makes sense.
But back to the fundamental, the point I've been making all conversation about this, how do you protect against that? You as the interested consumer, you as the person listening to this or watching the news or reading the newspaper, whatever to help, you know, more likely checking a website, how do you protect yourself versus this accept fucking some version of critical thinking, some version of wanting to challenge and understand something more than it is? Like, I don't know how else you do that. Because if we're at the point where there's a whole subset of people who are taking things that can't be proved and haven't been proved and are actively disproved as reality against all this stuff saying that isn't, how the fuck do you interact with that? How do you work with that? Like, what do you do to the people who think that the election has been stolen? And every time you present factually why that has been disproved, how none of that has been held up, how none of these mass allegations of election fraud have been supported whatsoever, but still hold on to it, what do you do?
I think that the most important thing is what you mentioned earlier, is what I try to do. I think that you have to start from common experiences. I think that as soon as you start rejecting like what is true, I think you've completely lost everything, because now no one is going to believe you, and they shouldn't believe you. I think that's the most important thing. So like, I talk a lot about, like, I try to be careful when I go over cases and shit on stream, because there's so much misinformation floating around about different things. And I think if a conservative rightly identifies somebody's lying about something, I think that they, in totally fair fashion, won't believe anything that you say after that. So like my biggest go-to example for this, and my stream says this a million times, like, are you familiar with like the Breonna Taylor stuff?
Rings a bell.
Okay. Did you know that she was killed in her bed by police officers?
I heard that.
Yeah, okay. That's absolutely not true. It's not even remotely true. But literally everybody thinks this. Her boyfriend shot at the cops coming through the door, and then they shot back, and she died in the hallway, right? Like, she was awake, tried to answer the door, didn't went back. Like, now, not saying that this justifies anything, makes anything right or wrong, but literally everybody across the planet thinks that she got, like, executed in her bed by police officers, like, breaking into her house while she was sleeping. Like, and this is, and to be clear, again, to reiterate a million times, this doesn't, like, make what the cops did right or okay or anything like that. Like, I don't think that any of that becomes okay, but, fuck, Sona. But like, when you start off from this area that is descriptively not true, and a conservative hears that, like, why the fuck would they believe anything else you say? Now it sounds like you're lying about everything, right? I'm sure that in your research in poly relationships or kink or anything else, like, one of the most important things that exists between two people is trust, and it is so easily lost. And in my opinion, sometimes it is actually impossible to get back. Like,
trust and communication. And
Yeah.
again, to the point of what we're talking about, when you can't communicate with someone because the fundamentals of your experience are so different. And I'm not talking like you come from different places, but when you literally believe in a different world,
different facts, yeah.
how do you get anything accomplished with that? You know, then you see these camps, you know, where you see these like camps of different realities, and it's so depressing to look at, right? It's so depressing to see that be what's happening. You know, you talk about like bridging the political divide, or, you know, bipartisan kind of stuff, but how do you do that if you can't talk to the other person? You know?
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, and I have no idea what to do with that. And both the Trump presidency and the pandemic have both been real downers for me about human nature. I've always been pretty fucking down on people as a whole, but like, I felt like these were whole new levels of insanity for me.
Like, how sad that, like, because now, like, I don't know if I don't like Michael Moore or somebody that does like comedy films. Like, I want to see somebody make like a realistic, like, what would a zombie apocalypse actually look like? The film would be like 35 minutes long. It would start with zombies walking through houses, eating people's brains. Then it would have people saying like, well, these videos were faked. This is the fake news media. It's not actually real. Then the next thing would be people saying that the government is inventing it and that all the vaccines aren't going to work or do anything for it. And then the next stage would be zombies killing everybody and the whole world dying, like, not even agreeing that there's even a zombie apocalypse happening. Like, that would literally be the entire movie, because that seems to be the case for where we're at, and like for dealing with everything. And it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, like.
Yeah, it was a real wake up call for me. I think I heard this on one of Jordan Peterson's podcasts. Again, didn't keep mentioning this guy for some reason, but like the sentiment was essentially, it's surprising how thin the veneer of civilization is over just raw humanity. And like, I felt for me, like, the pandemic was a little bit of peeling that back to realize, oh shit, we're not that many steps away from losing it all, right?
From
like,
total fucking ruin. Yeah, we're like, you hear these stories of like, during World War II, we had like the Office of Censorship, like every fucking American was on board with like trying to win the war. You have these stories of like during the Revolution, like every American picked up a rifle, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like the big dog, little dog meme. And now in 2021, people are like, I don't want to wear a mask, that infringes on my rights. Like, dude, are you fucking serious? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's super fucking cringe.
And like my first job at 16, like at a pizza place, right? I was shocked and appalled at how little fucking actual organization there was behind the scene. And somehow, despite that like really obvious like foreshadowing of the rest of the world, I'm still surprised time and time again when I see behind the scenes of some of these things. And it's like, for me, the pandemic was a big kind of one of these deals. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This is what we have, and this is our plan for this. Yeah. This is how we're gonna treat this. This is how we as a country are gonna roll with this. Really?
Yeah.
Like, what if this had been, you know, something with a actual fucking mortality rate of a non-negligible mortality rate? Like, fuck. You know, like I have this conversation on PKA from time to time where they talk to me about how I should own a gun, and I talk to them about how I don't really want to shoot people, and And I'm not equating the two, but like the sense of if I have a gun, I'm gonna be in the position where I might eventually shoot someone, kind of deal, right? But like at the point of like this pandemic, post-pandemic, I'm like, yep. If we go through another pandemic, the first thing I'm doing is buying a pistol.
Yeah.
Because if we run into something which is a bit more fucking severe than what we actually ran into, and people refuse to take it at all seriously, then what the hell am I gonna do? You know, like if my neighbor can approach me and kill me by approaching me and kill me and my wife by approaching me, and they won't take the fact that I need them to stand a little further apart during this seriously.
Yeah.
What
And
would
it's
you
like,
do?
this is like the barest of minimums to like, Jesus, yeah. It's crazy how much, the political divide on everything is so unbelievable to me. I don't even know what to say, yeah. I remember that my, I saw this so much. I grew up in a very conservative household. I don't know if I told you that. I grew up Catholic and all that shit. I think I mentioned this to you before. And one of the craziest things to me was, I remember growing up, my mom was in the Air Force, and I remember growing up, little boy, and my mom in tears crying to me over the Monica Lewinsky stuff, like telling me that, like, Stevie, like, I know that this looks like it's just Bill Clinton, but, you know, the president, that's the leader of the armed forces, and the idea that a man could treat a woman that way, that rolls all the way down. The way that other people treat me, the way that commanding officers treat me, like, everybody acts like that. And when Bill Clinton did this, it was disgusting for women everywhere. And listening to her say that, and then the Trump grab him by the pussy stuff, and she's like, oh, come on, Stevie, boys will be boys, blah, blah, blah. I was like, dude, are you fucking serious? You are actually fucking crazy. Like, what the fuck? I actually just couldn't fucking believe it.
Have you seen the Daily Show like recap of like what the Republican politicians were saying about Trump prior to him winning the primaries and then post winning the primaries?
I haven't, but I mean, I saw a lot of what they say, like people like Lindsey Graham and shit. Like, some crazy shit. Yeah.
It's full, like if you ever want to see grifting at its absolute rawest form, it's that. And it doesn't even it even makes sense, right? But it's some I struggle with this, like as someone who's generally pretty
honest,
inclined towards critical thinking and pretty inclined to looking for the worst in what people are doing. I struggle to maintain the seeing through the facade what's being presented of what's happening versus what their actions say is presenting. I struggle with that all the time, to kind of keep in mind how, I don't know if the word is corrupt, or just how much work is put into the optics of presenting a side, right? And like it's absolutely mind-boggling to some degree when you look at kind of what's happening versus what you're being told. And like I know it's cliche to bring up fucking Orwell, but like this is Orwellian to some degree, right? You look at this and you're like, this is literally doublethink. This is being told, you know, this person was a problem. The next one, or for like take like Pence, right?
Yeah, we're at war with Oceania, and then now tomorrow we're at war, or mid-speech the war changes and everybody's like clapping along.
Pence is like the greatest.
Trump did this so many times. Oh my God, I couldn't. Dude, listening to my mom. So my mom won't take the vaccine, even though we've had 2 family members that literally fucking died from the coronavirus. She doesn't want it. Listening to my mom talk about how Trump took the pandemic very seriously from the very start, I'm like, I actually can't believe this. Like, I listened to Trump so many times talk about it's not a big deal. It's whatever. It's not. We've got 3 cases. It's fine. Or blah blah blah. For Republicans to like switch on that to be like, oh no, Trump took it super duper seriously like the whole time. It's like, wait, are you serious?
Yeah, and how stupid must they think I am to buy that, right? Like if that is the line that they're going to hold to, and their expectation is the people listening will fall in line with that. Because they're saying it repeatedly, despite the fact I experienced it. I was there. I listened to the
like
speeches.
we hear your speeches, dude. Like what the fuck?
They're fucking recorded. We have them there forever as they were. It's insane. It's insanity on some level. And God, I don't know what you do with that. What the fuck do you do with that? If you have, what do you do with your mother saying that? Like I have a grandmother who, all her life she was a little kind of like alternate, right? Like I don't know. Homeopathics, crystals, this kind of stuff, right?
Sure, yeah.
Who, and the way this has happened as she's gotten older has been real anti, like she was real anti-Obama, like birth certificate stuff, real pro-Trump, real believing that all the pandemic stuff is bullshit. And I have no idea how to interface with her. Like, if I get into any length of conversation with her, inevitably she starts citing conspiracy theories. She like gish gallops me almost, right? Like she just starts like throwing off 1,000 conspiracy theories that it's like it takes me 10 minutes to disprove each one kind of deal, and I have a limited amount of life in me,
and nothing that you say actually sticks. Like you'll like, because I did the mom, and I'll disprove something, and then but she'll be talking about it again, you know, like a week
30
later.
seconds later.
Yeah. And even when some of the conspiracy stuff is so ridiculous. I remember one of the conversations I had with my mom about like illegals voting for Hillary. My mom talked about how Democrats brought in like millions of illegals to vote for Hillary. It's like, okay, Mom, everybody has a cell phone. Let's just think about this for 1 second, okay? Like, how many buses would there have to be? How many buses would there have to be? And nobody has like film of this anywhere, right? This is like 10,000 buses if there's 100 in each bus of illegal immigrants. Where are they? Where's the footage? Like, no one can sneak this, right? Yeah. Or like when it comes to like the voter like theft shit, like judges everywhere. Trump's own appointed judges like looked at all of this shit and they didn't find anything. Like, where is all the illegal shit if it happened? Like, how did it escape every single fucking court case? How did every single judge determine that like nothing bad actually happened? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's super frustrating.
On bad days, I think to myself that we're doing this wrong on the liberal side of this. We've clearly been shown a methodology that works better for keep getting people to do what you want than telling the truth. We've seen it. Trump has changed everything for this, right? This is finally the like epitome of a politician in the worst sense of that word, right? Like the purest form of just manipulation for manipulation, right? And ethically, if you know that works better, and you're going to lose, and I'm not sure this is necessarily the case, but this is kind of the fears of that case, right? If you're going to lose by combating that traditionally, do you just fucking embrace that methodology? Like, if it's just a better methodology for persuading people, do you just run that methodology in the end?
Yeah, but that's like the problem is because when I have conversations with my mom, I think that people, at least internet figures shown left, I don't think the politicians are there yet, but definitely like the online, like the pundits and the figures sometimes, or in the alternative media, I should say, I think do play that like, let's lie because it helps our side game. And that's where, unfortunately, a lot of those conversations with my mom start, is they start from like common left-leaning lies. And when the conversation starts there, and I'm already kind of like on the back foot, yeah, I think that's
just a mixed strategy. Right?
Well,
Because
you call it a mixed strategy,
is,
but like if you're already, the thing is that if one side has caught you in one lie, I think that you've lost all the credibility and now you're fighting an uphill battle. And that sucks. Because then,
no, and I don't mean like on an individual debate for you, like because you're right. Like if you start with saying some bullshit, you're gonna deal with the fact of that bullshit. But I mean,
not even for me personally for bullshit, but like did you ever see the videos of remember those evil high school kids that bullied that poor American Indian when he was like being like?
I never saw the original stuff from that, but I saw your recap of that.
Yeah, the way that it was presented was actually so unbelievably fucking wrong. And like my mom will cite stuff like that to start off. And so any conversation we have, I have to immediately make concessions like, okay, yeah, the left does get some stuff wrong. And then I have to ask her from that point of view to yeah, they get stuff wrong, but I'm going to need you to believe them this time. Like, that's impossible. Like, how do you ever get somebody when you're starting from that perspective, you know?
Yeah. And and additionally, like if you're going to have to disprove everything that she says that's wrong each time, in every time that you broach the conversation, you start almost from zero again, and there's 1,000 lines of things that you have to get through before you can start communicating. Is it even worth attempting that route? If your goal is to persuade, like if your goal is to entertain or to make content or to, to try to convince other people who are not that person via demonstrating how lost and poorly this person is presenting their reality, sure, you can get some benefit of that. But if you're trying to convince that person, is it even beneficial to go that route? Do you get anywhere with that? Because
the thing is that if we play the thing, if you're talking about just like, well, let's just make up more lies to counter their lies. It seems like
that big picture, right?
Yeah, but then now we're just all like in totally different information worlds, and now we've just furthered the problem even more. Is what it feels like.
Yeah, 100%. You further the problem even more. You make society as a whole worse, and you make everyone's ability to interact with reality worse. But do you do this as like a Big Brother kind of thing where you're just like, fuck it, we can't trust people to do this for themselves, we have to do it kind of deal? Do you end up endorsing that? I mean, what if your options are literally watch this misinformation bullshit subsume discourse, or do it better than them? Like, what are your fucking options?
I mean, at that point then, haven't you kind of conceded a whole bunch, like philosophically, about how you think society ought to be? Like, that almost feels like if you take that approach, you're basically admitting that like liberalism has failed, democracy doesn't really work, we need to like switch up completely.
Yeah, possibly. And at least for me, the parts of that actually I haven't thought quite as far as that, but my thoughts are, I am less, after the last 5 years of life, I am much less happy with the idea of trusting my fellow man to make good decisions.
Yeah, I understand that.
Because I watched this shit and they didn't.
Yeah.
I watched the shit go down where it was a series of transparent lies in large part, and then a series of like short-sighted human nature stuff, right? Where it's inconvenient to do these things. We don't want to do these things. We're being told that we don't have to do these things by sources that we probably shouldn't trust, but it'd be nice if we could trust, kind of deal. And then watching the fucking outcome of that. And it's, I don't know, it's been extremely demoralizing for me.
Yeah.
Because on some level, it was like, I'll give you another example of this. I was in college. This is my undergrad, and I was in this was like a capstone course for psychology, right? In my undergrad, and the professor asked us to raise our hands who believed in religion.
Okay.
And I was expecting like 1 or 2, and it was like 95% of the class, and I was just sitting there like, it basically floored me again, because I'm like, it just felt like one of these things that was so transparently impossible, so transparently a representation, a symbolism of something, or a non-factual, that's not even factual, a non-literal interpretation of some moral ideology, essentially, is how I had viewed that. But it was being viewed as like, in all seriousness, yes, I believe in these things. These events happened in this sequence, literally. And you're just like, it floors you at some level. You're like, and I've kind of been feeling that way a little bit again with this round of misinformation. You can't, it's hard for me to see the person who actually believes it and understand how they get there.
Sure. But yeah, I guess on my end, it feels like, unfortunately, I feel like it's pretty easy to understand. It just doesn't make it any better. But I think that once you get like, you only need like really, I think like two or three pieces of misinformation to start to have like a big picture story that just fucking destroys everything. I think it's really that simple. You only need like I think every reasonable boomer is like 2 Facebook memes away from being a fascist, like unironically.
Yeah, but if you say that, then how do you reconcile the challenge you've just thrown up to me, which is the idea that if that is the case, and I don't disagree with you, that it is not very far away from destabilizing people's grip on reality. How do you deal with the fact that we're in an age where we're running a model of government that requires people be engaged with reality to be effective in it, and then we're running multiple avenues of attack against that? You know, you're looking at outside election interference perhaps, or you're looking at just destabilization of democracy, if you're looking at even just the political parties inside our own system willing to play with how they're representing reality to get their own kind of political way. What's the reconciliation there?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because like all of my prescriptions become like very bleak at that point. Like it literally comes to like, we need to like ban like misinformation, like find some way to either get every private company on board with what is like misinformation or not, and then get them to like, or like federally ban it, which is impossible, which has like obviously a million other like bad things that go along with it. Like, do you want, for instance, if the government has the power to ban misinformation, what are you going to do when someone like Trump is president, right? Like, obviously, like all of these things become really fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's made worse by technology outpacing legislation by a lot. Like, there's not even ways to like, there's not even legalities to protect you from this one way or the other, because they're just no way near to catching up to what's being out there and how people are actually interacting, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And banning any, there's all sorts of problems with that for sure. So, uplifting. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but again, like I come back to what do you do about it? And honestly, I don't do a lot about it. Like I live my life and mostly try to ignore it as much as possible. But if I were to think about, well, you know, what do I try to do, like from just like some basic level of moral responsibility with my viewers? I try to teach critical thinking regularly. I do this with people. I mean, trolls are a great example of doing this in my chat, for example, like pulling them out is like, and there's no way it would work on the level of people in your chat, but like for me, like that's a good couple seconds of thinking about it, right? To like pull apart the argument, present why it's a dumb question or a bad argument or a bad representation of that, and point that out, and then point that out doubly with the idea of like, well, why do we not want people doing that in my channel? Because I don't want people taking that like super low level engagement with it and then letting that be the thing that flies, the thing that is the discourse, the whatever, the meta of the channel, you know? Like I don't want that. So like, anyway.
Yeah. Well. What? Well, where do you want to go from here?
Yeah, I was just looking. We're coming up on 2 hours of conversation about that, and this was when you reached out to me with the topic. I'm like, I wonder where the hell we're going to go with this. I wasn't quite expecting to go here, but at least this was something that is interesting to talk about, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do if like all you're asking me is what do I think of self-diagnosis. It's going to be like about a 30-second answer, and then I'm going to be like, all right, now what?
Yeah.
So
I echoing on the coronavirus point, it is pretty disappointing how hard it is to do anything related to anything, because of how politically divided we are. One of the things that I was simultaneously like the most happy about and then the most depressed about was like when it came to like vaccine production and everything, for like there was like a small window of time where it was like, oh, this is what like the United States looks like at its best, because we destroyed the vaccine stuff. We got them out in an amazing amount of time. It was available for every single U.S. citizen and non-citizen. They were like, it was just, that was so unbelievably awesome. Like I think Biden's goal was 100 million doses in his first 100 days, and he got like 200 million. It was like unbelievable. And then, but then everything becomes so politically divided, like that we can't even do that. So like you can see like glimmers sometimes of like, oh, well, what does it look like when the U.S. is united on a problem? Like, what does it actually look like? How is that problem solved? But it is impossible to move in that direction. And I didn't
it's
think
very reminiscent of kind of like the societal stories we tell ourselves too, right? Like of like World War II or something like this, right? Like when under external threat, we pull together as a people, etc. And then like you look at it now and it's like, what are the vaccination rates at? Like some horrendous.
We're never getting to
like,
60%. We won't even get there. And I think we needed 70 or 80 for herd immunity, but we're not even going to get to 60. It's like unfucking believable. Yeah.
Yeah, and the end result of that is by allowing these unchecked, basically breedings of generations of the fucking virus, what we're ending up with is we're ending up with mutations, and these mutations mutate inevitably around the precautions that we have, meaning we have to do it all over again. And that's short-sighted fucking stupidity of people, not like everyone. Like, yeah, okay, I get it. There's exceptions. There's the people who can't not go to work. There has to be considerations for this. But as a whole, societally, that is not the bulk of the reasons that people aren't doing this shit, right?
Yeah.
It's the ideology, it's the information presentation, it's what the people believe, essentially. And it's insanely short-sighted. It leads to much larger problems for all of us moving forward on this trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like we talk about personal choice and individual freedom. Well, isn't the point of that when it's just your life and your shit you're dealing with? Isn't the whole point, the more it impacts other people, the more that has to be like regulated or enforced? Isn't that literally the point of this shit? So like it isn't, you know, someone's own choice if they're not taking a vaccination, if you're trying to reach herd immunity. That literally definitionally requires the participation of X% of people, regardless if they want it or not, to even reach that goal. You know, like I don't know what you do with that. I'm super glad I'm not in legislation, because I have no idea what I'd do with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
No. Yeah, man. Happy to talk more if you have more to talk about. That sounds like we're kind of slowing down on this spiel, and it's a little bit of a depressing end note on that. And I hate to leave it like that, because I don't know, like I had a viewer a long time ago ask me kind of, you know, Filthy, why do you keep getting up? And it was clearly like it was kind of an offhanded question, but it was a question from a viewer who had been around for a while on the channel, was clearly a supportive viewer. It wasn't a troll question. This was like a question from someone in pain, right? And the kind of disturbing element of it for me was there's no real possible way that I'm going to fix that. I can suggest and I can give like what I do and what I look at it from, but none of this is going to be the answer for them necessarily, or even the answer period. And the answer is, depressingly from my perspective, is, well, why do I bother with any of this? Is because what else do you have, right? Like,
Sure.
This is the one life I have. This is the one reality that I get to live in. This is the one shot I have at it. Like even if it feels like it's such a fucking lost cause, I mean the alternative outcomes are so awful that what else do you do?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. A little absurdist take, I guess. Yeah.
I think that is some of this absurdist take. I don't know.
Push the boulder up the hill, because why not? Because fuck it. There's nothing else
Well,
to
push
do.
the boulder up the hill, because if you stop, you get the boulder rolling down on you, right?
Well, there's nothing else to do. Why not?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. It's a good note. What's a game you're looking forward to?
Let's see. Man, that is a good question that probably should have more information on. I do so many games that it's really hard to get anyone. I'm looking forward to, maybe we can just go back to the last spell on that. I'm looking forward to the developers' revamp of that the next iteration of the last spell. I'm really hoping that game comes out well. I'm looking forward to anything 4Xy that turns out real well. I would love a Civ 7 to be awesome. Like, wasn't a big fan of Civ 6, but really liked Civ 5. I'd love a Civ 7, kind of so. I don't do as much FPS stuff, so sometimes I'm a little behind on that. I'd love a good MOBA. I had someone unironically suggest the Pokemon MOBA to my channel the other day. I don't think I'll be going there, but
A few people were playing it, a few big streamers. I don't know if it's good or not, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you think they'll ever solve human toxicity in MOBAs?
I don't think you can solve it completely, but I think it would go a long way. I think having voice chat helps, unironically.
Yeah.
I think it takes a certain type of like really fucked mentally person to be toxic towards somebody in voice chat. I think it's a lot easier to do it when it's just text. The only evidence I ever cite for this is when I go back to my days of playing CSGO, the most toxic people were always when you entered the game is when you get into voice chat, the people that are just typing, you always know they're going to be the most toxic ones, because very few people actually have the gall to like be toxic on voice comms, because it's like, because
it's harder.
Yeah, because you're talking and you're hearing
anonymous.
voice and like, yeah, and everything. Yeah, everybody's a little bit more humanized.
Yeah, I did that when I used to play Civ 5 multiplayer a lot, and when I was doing that, it was always harder. So I maintained my focus in games like this by hating my opponents, and I used to dislike getting on TeamSpeak with them for exactly that reason, because it would humanize too much. It would slow down my ability to represent them entirely mentally as the enemy, you know, because it humanizes. So anyway.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you reaching out for the conversation. Glad to do it again sometime if we figure out another topic. I do have a request for you, actually, for
What's
this one.
up? Uh-oh.
Not a request, not a topic request, but when your editor brands this, would you put my my channel name in that this time?
Oh, damn. Did he not do it last time?
No.
Okay, well, hopefully August does it. He doesn't schmaz you. Yeah.
I appreciate it. That would be pleasant on my end. Okay. But anyways.
I love you, buddy. Have fun. Be careful.
Yeah, cheers. Have a good one.
Bye. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.
League, huh? Are you at bottom of the barrel for your games, or just